All right, welcome everybody to Hump Day Hangouts. This is episode number 472. Today is the 29th of November, 2023. This is the post Black Friday, post Cyber Monday Hump Day Hangouts, where we're here to get you over your shopping hangover and get you some local SEO answers. And speaking of Black Friday, hopefully everyone took advantage of the semantic mastery content we put out. Had a video up on AI usage in local SEO that was up on YouTube for the 4 days between Black Friday and Cyber Monday. And Bradley gave access to updated video lead gen systems inside of the Circle membership group. So if you got in or took advantage of that, congratulations. If you missed out, that's okay. But next time when you see that those are live, you definitely want to take advantage because we shut down access to those, let's see, yesterday. So
Right.
Also wanted to say real quick before I say hi to the guys, if you're watching this for the first time, make sure you subscribe to the channel. And if you want to find out about stuff like the Black Friday free training access, you can always subscribe to the Semantic Mastery email. Just head over to the website, semanticmastery.com, and you can find out about it there. Hop on the email list, and we do send out good information about updates as well as good deals like free training. So with that said, let's say hi, and then we're going to jump into some questions and a couple other things. So Chris, how you doing today?
Been good. Snowing here in Vienna. Cold as usual. Not too cold for me at the moment. I'm usually getting more like antsy at like -5 degrees or less. But right now it's quite sweet.
Nice. All right. Well, Bradley, how about you? How you doing?
All right, I'm good now that I'm logging into chat as the Semantic Mastery channel instead of one of my tree service channels. I just replied to Michael Wheaton from one of I didn't realize, but I was logged in. I don't know how I could start the live event, but still be logged into another channel. I don't even understand how that just happened, but it did. So anyway, I'm here. Hey, everybody.
Oh man, awesome. Talking about holidays, offers, things like that. We gave away the free training over Black Friday, Cyber Monday. We are going to be having some cool holiday stuff coming out. We're going to have some really good deals going on. We were just talking about that yesterday, kind of finalizing what it is we're going to be offering. So keep your eyes peeled for that, for emails, as well as we'll put up something on YouTube and Facebook, and that'll be happening mid-December. Got to finalize a few things, wrap up the bow ties on it, and get it ready for kind of the holiday spirit. So with that said, anything else, guys, before we jump into it?
No, I think we can jump right into questions today.
Cool. Let's do it.
So I got quite a few. So I'm going to grab the screen. I'll go ahead and kill my video. I would usually leave it on, but I'm on a Wi-Fi connection that's not great. So I'll swap that out. So give me 1 second. There it is. Still trying to get used to working from a laptop, even after like 2 months of it. All right. So the first question that comes up is from Danny. He says, "Hey, Bradley, where do you see local SEO in a year from now? I'm curious to hear your thoughts." It's a good question. You know, it's still up in the air as to what's going to happen with like SGE and all that kind of stuff. So I don't know where it's going to be, except that it's certainly it seems to be very apparent, very clear that Google is trying to push non-paid results further and further down on the page. I was just talking about this earlier this week on our mastermind webinar. We had a makeup webinar on Monday for the webinar that we usually host on Thursday because it was Thanksgiving last week. But I was talking about that. I feel like as a local SEO, we also need to get better at local ads, running Google ads, search ads, etc., because Google continues pushing non-paid results further and further down on the page. Depending on the local search query, I'm seeing all kinds of stuff. Sometimes I'll see a paid maps pack listing or maps pack, excuse me, at the top of like the very top of the page. Before anything else, there's like a little maps pack with only advertised, like, you know, people that are paying for Google ads that are in there. And then I'm also seeing in some search queries, the guaranteed Google provider search ads that come up at the top as kind of like a carousel. And then below that, regular paid ads. And then in the maps pack, I've seen as many as 5 listings with the first 2 being paid. So you've got to go below, like scroll halfway down the page before you ever even get to the first paid non-paid listing. And so that's something I think is likely going to be continue to cause problems is or for us as local SEOs is the non-paid results, getting pushed further down on the page. So I know you're asking specifically about local SEO, but as local SEOs, I think we need to also, if we're relying on just SEO to produce results for our clients and generate leads, et cetera, and SEO non-paid results, which is typically what SEO is, right? Keeps getting pushed further down the page, then that means there should be, it makes sense that there will be less traffic and therefore less leads generated from organic SEO or non-paid results. And so I think we have to become better at that. So I'm currently testing a lot with Google Ads, mostly in the tree service industry, but I got a couple of other clients, older clients of mine, and if the other industries that I'm testing with too, trying to get better results with ads myself because I got a little rusty over the years. I haven't done a whole lot of search ad stuff, and I'm trying to do some more of that now because of what I just mentioned. Like I thought that was a good question, Danny, because I'm trying to prepare for that now by testing and just trying to get better at Google Ads. It's a different animal than it was 2 years ago. It's a lot different actually. So I thought I was fairly proficient at Google Ads until I got back into them again. And then I realized I don't know shit because the ads platform has changed so much in the bidding strategies, which in the past, I remember, 2-3 years ago when I was doing a lot more ad stuff, search ad stuff. I tested with some of the automated bidding strategies or bidding methods, whatever you want to call it. And they weren't great. That in some cases they would work fairly well, but in other cases I could do much better doing manual bidding, and setting max cost per click values and all that kind of stuff. But what I've been experiencing lately is, once I have enough data in the account, if I select an automated bidding strategy, that it tends to perform better than what I could do on my own. And perhaps that's just because I don't have enough. I'm not as all that great at ads, but I'm seeing that the automated strategies tend to, from what I'm seeing, again, just from my own testing, are performing a lot better than they did a couple of years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, and they seem to be outperforming what I can do on my own. And again, that's probably likely just because I'm not great at ads right now. You know what I mean? But the point that I'm trying to make is I think that's going to be one of the more important things to do. And also to look at other sources besides just Google search, certainly, but how else can we generate leads besides that? So I think that's something else that's going to become more important. Have a more holistic approach to generating leads for a local business than just through, non-paid results or SEO, if that's clear. So hopefully you understand what I'm saying. I expect a lot of stuff to change. And it looks like Google continues to just make it harder and harder for us. And, I can understand that, but we have to evolve with it. So I think ads is going to be part of it. Good question, though. John says, Bradley, what service do you recommend to create backlinks to my PR? Well, I guess it depends. I recommend using highly relevant topical links for press release stuff. If it is for a local business, you could also hit a press release with some geographic links or links with local relevance. That should absolutely help, because I've not actually done a lot of testing with that, believe it or not. I've done a lot of testing with topical links, but not with geographic links to press releases. That, as a matter of fact, I'm going to make a note of that. That's something I should be testing, and I haven't yet. So just give me 1 second, guys. I'm writing this down. Links for PRs. Yeah, that's something I will test. It'll be weeks before I have any results, but I would say linking to, if you're using press releases the way that I recommend, which is for pushing, well, it's for branding and for promoting maps, Google Business Profiles, to help kind of push maps rankings. Those are the 2 ways that I use them: for branding and manipulating brand search, and also for maps ranking, because of the very specific way that I use press releases. Although it's interesting, that's funny, because like I said, I haven't done a lot of geo link building to press releases to see if that produces a better result. And it likely would. My assumption is it would, but I've not tested that yet. So, but what I usually recommend is topical links to the press release. Also, if you have like Press Advantage, which is what we use, or any of the, the better press release companies should offer some sort of like a media room or organization room or some shit where you can hit that kind of, which is basically like an index page that lists all of the press releases published for that organization or that company. That's one of my favorite targets to hit with backlinks, because then topical links, like I said, is what I've mainly done for that. But because if you power up the organization page, every time you publish a new press release, it's going to benefit from the relevance and link equity, the strength that you built to that organization page, instead of it on an individual press release level. So in other words, you can stretch your link building dollars further, or get more, it's more cost effective to build links to like the organization or media room page, because it will automatically power up new press releases that are published, if that makes sense, instead of having to always build links to individual press releases. That said, if you were planning on using, like a press release that you want, a single press release that you want to build links to, I recommend doing a premium press release for that, and then building links to one of those premium press release publications, if that makes sense, to where it's published on one of the premium providers like Yahoo Finance or Globe Newswire or whatever, if that's clear. A couple of things though, because somebody asked me this in our mastermind or in a webinar. It might not have been our mastermind, but anyway, somebody asked me about this a couple of weeks ago and said, well, what is your favorite link building target from the PR press release distributions? And I always prefer to build link to Press Advantage, which is the service that I use, to the press releases and the media room that are on the Press Advantage domain. And there's a reason for that. Even though the premium press release distribution pickups outrank the Press Advantage pickup for sure, or the Press Advantage URLs, almost always they outrank it. The reason I like to build the links to the Press Advantage domain, or the press release published on Press Advantage or the media room or both, is because those are, first of all, do follow links, or they can be. You can set them to no follow or do follow, but I always set them to do follow. And number two, because it's not going to purge, right? They stay there. Now, some of the other press release companies you got to be careful about, or the pickup points, you got to be careful because they purge. And so if you build links to an individual release that gets deleted after a set amount of time, whatever that may be, then you've just wasted all that. I mean, you might have benefited from it while it was live, but you've basically wasted those resources once it gets purged. The kind of workaround for that is you could always build links to a redirect URL that you set as the destination, or the target URL is the press release that you're trying to power up. And then when it purges, you can, as long as you're using a redirect that you have the ability to edit, you can always go back and swap out the target or destination URL with another press release or another target altogether, if that makes sense. But I always recommend going with relevance to those. I mean, depending on the publication, like I said, if you're going to be using something like if you're going to be hitting a press release from like a premium press release distribution or pickup that has a no follow link, then you can hit those with bulk kitchen sink spam. I always called it kitchen sink spam because we throw everything at it, including the kitchen sink. You know what I mean? So so again, it just always depends. When people say, well, what kind of links would you build? It depends. I don't ever recommend, I mean, I'm not going to say I rarely recommend ever using bulk spam, because I don't like to use bulk spam. But in certain cases, in certain properties, and if it's a no follow link that's coming from the property that linking to my target or money site, then bulk spam can still work. It's been probably a year since I've done any bulk spam testing, but I know last year I did some in our mastermind and shared the results, and I was still able to get results with spamming like patch.com classified announcement posts, which is straight up blog comment spam, and it still works. At least it did a year ago. So it'd be interesting to test that again to see if it's changed as much as I'm assuming it's probably not nearly as effective now as it was a year ago, but I don't know because I don't do a lot of bulk spam link building. So anyway, I recommend just, picking one of the best, which pickup or publication do you want to build the links to? I like to benefit from the links that I build. So that's why I prefer to do the Press Advantage, because it's permanent and they're follow links. So I will benefit from the links that I build to the PR or the organization room. It's going to flow through to the target assets. But like I said, if you're just trying to rank the press release, then find one of the, a premium press release is good for that. and then pick one of the premium distributions that has a no follow link and just hammer that with bulk spam. And that's another way to get it to rank. But also, guys, you can run traffic to press releases. That's a good way. Press releases are, it's not something that will last long term, but if you run CTR traffic to a press release, especially like right after it's published, you can get away with ranking press releases a lot of times with just traffic signals for a period of time. They have a shelf life because press releases are intended, like by nature, to be news. So they have a shelf life, right? They don't last forever, or typically. So what I'm saying is, if you're spoofing traffic to a press release, then it's kind of a quick hack to get press releases to rank and stick on page one for a period of time. But again, it still will wane over time. So just to be clear about that. David says bulk spam still works. That's great, David. I mean, I haven't tested with it in forever. I assume it still does on high domain authority or DR type sites and things like that. Like I said, I don't typically do any bulk spam anymore, but that would be worth doing a little testing too. So let me make a note of that too. I might even actually set up, there's a couple tests that I could set up for our mastermind members specifically that I would share in the mastermind about that. Geolinks for press releases and also bulk spam testing. I got a couple of new Google business locations in the last week too. So I might even set up a test or two on one of those. So Matt says, is Citation Vault worth it? Have you seen it help rankings? I've not used Citation Vault in isolation, Matt, to see if it moves the needle. I like Citation Vault. It's funny because we were just talking about this in a meeting I had earlier, right before Hump Day Hangouts. Citation Vault is a clear footprint, guys. Just be careful with it. Like, I don't ever recommend pointing it directly to your money site. I tell all of my clients, don't do that, because I get a lot of link building clients that have already had Citation Vault pointed to their money site. It's a clear footprint, guys. Google is fully aware of it. So just don't use it to point directly to your money site. You can point to Google properties, just don't point directly to your money site. That's all. Like, I use it for every one of my clients, just so you guys are aware. I use Citation Vault. So obviously I think it's decent. I haven't tested it in isolation to see if but I would never point it to any of my, I mean, I did on a couple of tests when I first picked it up, but I don't recommend pointing it to directly to your money site or your self-hosted site. Point it to the Google Maps share URL or to the Google business website, because it's a Google property. Google's not going to punish itself, and you get about 300 backlinks. But remember, I mean, again, it's a very clear footprint. There's no question about it, because everybody on Citation Vault, every link on Citation Vault or listing on Citation Vault gets the same 300 links. You know what I mean? So it's a very clear, very easy to pick up on algorithmically. So again, I would recommend you do it. Is it worth it? I mean, I use it for all my clients. I pay $300 a month for it or whatever. So I obviously think it's worth using, but I only point it to, like I said, is just kind of like what I like to use it for, just so you guys know, is I prefer to point it to the Google business website. And more recently, we've started switching all of the, whenever we point to the Google business website, we point to the alternate version of the GB website URL that's on the google.com domain instead of the business.site domain. And I like doing that and using a brand anchor, because that's years ago, we used to call this, what I'm about to mention, pillowing, right? So pillowing was to build a blast of backlinks to a new project, a new target URL, to build a blast of backlinks that were either branded or URL anchors or generics, what I call miscellaneous anchors, which is like click here, learn more, etc., like all that kind of stuff. But we used to call that, this was years ago, but we used to call that pillowing before we would hit it with a keyword anchor, right? We would build a base, like lay a foundation of branded URL, and I consider branded and URL anchors in the same category, but branded or URL anchors or generics or miscellaneous anchors. Again, those are interchangeable terms there. And before hitting it with any kind of keyword anchor text link, and it was called pillowing because it would make it like the keyword anchor text link land softer. Like it was more acceptable because it wasn't such a drastic hit. However, I don't typically do that with anymore. I mean, I don't really, well, actually I kind of do. And let me back up. We do kind of do pillowing, but we just use straight up brand anchors now, even for all my link building clients. And a lot of you or some of you that are link building clients of mine, you can see this in your link building reports. The first month, or the first month or two, and also depending on what the current state of the project is when we get it, we build almost exclusively brand anchors. And that's because that is kind of a pillowing effect. Because before we start hitting those target pages or URLs with keyword anchors, we want to make sure that we're already skewing the anchor text ratios into the largest percentage being in the brand / URL category. So why I say that is because Citation Vault is good for that, for pillowing the Google Business website or the Google Maps share URL, whichever you decide to use. I prefer the GB website for that, but pillowing that with 300 branded anchors so that therefore every link that we place through the link building process that I do that is linking directly to the Google Business website or whatever the target, either the map share URL or the GB website, depending on what we link to from Citation Vault, we can go with target or topic anchors. Hopefully you understand what I mean. Guys, for those of you that don't know the terminology yet, what I call a target anchor is keyword plus location modifier. So that's usually keyword plus city, or city plus keyword, or keyword plus near me, or one of the variants of near me, like nearby, in my area, around me, etc. A topic anchor is a keyword only. So that's a keyword without a location modifier. So what I'm saying is if you submit the Google Business website URL to Citation Vault and check the box to use the brand name as the anchor text, then you've got 300 anchor text links that are brand anchors, right? So now every subsequent link that you build, if you're building not volume, but you're building higher quality or more relevant links, so lower volume link building, which is what we do at Semantic Links, we can hit every one of the links that we place intentionally, not through automation like Citation Vault. We can use a target or topic anchor because we've already laid the foundation of branded anchors. We've pillowed that site, if that makes sense. So, but again, I've not tested in isolation. I have seen sometimes after adding Citation Vault and like a slight, tick up in some cases, but it's not consistent enough to say that that was indeed the cause of it. So anyway, good question. What is your take on linking to the GBP with exact anchor text from a location-based page on the client site? Yeah, you can do that. That's what I was just talking about. You can also, something else worth testing, guys, is linking to the GB website or the Google Map URL, preferably the share URL, with the address as the anchor text, even for unpublished street address listings, so service area business listings. That's worth testing. I've done a little bit of testing with that and seen some results. I've not duplicated it enough, though, to confirm that that is indeed a consistent factor. But I have seen in some cases by linking to the GB website or the Google Maps share URL with anchor text that are the address of the physical location of the GBP, that it's caused, I've seen movement from that. Again, I've not done it enough to prove to myself that it's consistent to say without, beyond a shadow of a doubt that that is a good signal. But I have seen some results from that, just, anecdotally is what I'm saying. So exact anchor text, that's what I was saying, to linking to the GBP with exact anchor text from a location page. Yeah, you can do that, right? That's why I'm saying, like, if either the GB website or the map. Guys, I've said this a lot. I don't recommend that you do a lot of link building to the Google Business CID map URL, because that is a URL that's hard to get unless you're an SEO. You don't even know what it is. So I still link to the CID map URL, but only in a couple of very strategic places. Remember, guys, the CID means company ID. So that's the entity, or like a machine readable ID, right? And so there's a couple of places where you do want to link directly to that, or at least I recommend linking to. Google Business website is one of them with an anchor text link. I usually just go with a brand anchor for that. Also from the ID page, if you have an ID page, I like to link directly to that with the CID map URL. Once again, usually a brand anchor, or the Google Business category name, the primary Google Business category name. But like I said, you can also test a little bit with linking to it with target anchors, as long as, or address, an address anchor. And you ought to test with that and see. I've not done, like I said, I've got to do some more testing to prove that consistently, but I've seen movement from that before. So even for service area businesses, which I thought was interesting, because I didn't think it would work at all. And like I said, I haven't proven it out yet, but I didn't think I would see any movement from that from when it's an unpublished street address, but I have. So Hopefully that's clear. I think it's fine to do that. Remember, it's a Google property. You can be more aggressive with linking to Google properties. I've never seen Google punish itself, and I mean that. So, I'm not giving you the green light to just spam until your heart's content. I don't recommend that, but I've not seen Google, any kind of negative reaction to linking to the GBP or doing like a map embed or something. So hopefully that's clear. All right, next one. If you optimize a service page titles using the format of service location brand, how do you optimize the terms like best service or service near me or service cost? Do you optimize for those keywords in the content itself versus the title? Yeah, you can. You can also do link building for those pages. Like that's another thing. Like if you're optimizing the top level page for just service location brand, which is what I recommend, keep it short and succinct, keep it broad, then you can rank for the keywords associated with that service. And a lot of times like best service and things like that are those are modifiers. So what I'm saying is using those as anchor text and links that points to that page can make that page rank for those search queries. Do you understand? Because again, it's a way to send that kind of signal that page is also about that term by having backlinks pointing to it with that as the anchor text. So that is one way to do it. Also, yeah, mentioning we putting reviews, embedding reviews into a page like that where people have said like this is the best service in our town, etc. That's also will have that on the page essentially. Also, you can put in the content itself. I would recommend it in content, but I don't recommend optimizing SEO titles for that stuff, guys, because it's not necessary, and I think it makes it look a bit spammy. I prefer to keep my SEO titles for the top level pages very short and succinct, where I'm really targeting just the top level topic or category term. That's what I prefer. Then you can always add supporting content, guys. Remember, you can still. I'm not going to go into this at all today because honestly, I feel like I should only be talking about some of this stuff in our mastermind anyway. But like when I talk about category and topic optimization, I always talk about, there's a specific way to do that. And then you can still optimize for keywords too. What I recommend is that your top level pages are optimized for topics or categories, and then you can add supporting content as posts or however you choose to do it, where you're still targeting or optimizing for keywords. And that's where that kind of stuff comes in, because now you can have blog posts that have longer SEO titles that are more kind of conversational or more traditional type of blog post titles that you can work keywords like that in, phrases like that, right? So for example, you might have on the service page some typical costs or average cost. Like in my business, tree service industry, there's like average cost of tree removal. That's a search query that gets quite a bit of search. So you can have it like a heading section on the page, right? So like an H2 or H3, like actually having like an H2 frequently asked questions section, and then the question is in, and the question is an H3, and then the answer is just normal paragraph text. But if you do that, again, that's good structure, and you can work those kind of cost related and pricing related questions in the FAQs on the page. And now, because you have those as H3s with the search query that you're optimizing for, or the keyword that you're optimizing for in the H3, that can help that page to rank for that. And I was actually talking, like I said, in the mastermind webinar earlier this week. It was the makeup webinar for Thanksgiving Thursday. I demonstrated in real time how Google is. I'm seeing this more and more now. I know that Google has done this for several years, but it was very rare. At least I didn't see it very often, but now I'm seeing it a lot more, which is Google is replacing in the search results the SEO title with instead the H1 in some cases when the H1 of the page is more relevant to the search query. And so it's interesting because you can designate the SEO title, but if Google thinks that the H1 is more relevant, or a heading, I'm saying the H1 because that's where I'm seeing it consistently now, a lot more consistently, where the H1 sometimes replaces the SEO title in the search results. And again, it's what from my assumption is that Google thinks that the H1 is more relevant to the seed search query, and that's why it replaces it with that. I can't remember if I have seen, I think I have, but I can't swear to it, that I've seen other headings like H2s or H3s or phrases from H2s or H3s in the search results. But that my guess is that that can happen or will happen if it hasn't already, as the search algorithm becomes more kind of tries to personalize results or customize results more for the searcher and the particular search query. Hopefully that's clear. So anyway, yeah, so in the content itself, and you can also do it in, like I said, headings is a good way. If there, I've talked about this a lot, even in Hump Day Hangouts, guys, because when I talk about optimizing for categories or topics, you can rank for keywords that, for all the keywords that are associated with the topic or category, even if it's not on the page. Yet most SEOs that I tell this to or talk to, they just don't believe it. And so I say, fine, if you want to see, if you just must see the keyword on the page, put it into a heading tag. Remember, the H1 is the title, the page title, not the SEO title, but the page title. H2s are headings, H3s are subheadings. So just put it into a heading. If you have to see the keyword on the page, put it into a heading. So that's a good way to do it. But don't forget, anchor text can also accomplish that stuff. Hopefully that's clear. Good question. Moving on. Okay. Yeah, David says this Matt had tonnage of queries. Good on him. Yeah, it is what it is. All right, so the next one, this one, I don't even know who this is from. Give me a second. I can't even figure it out. Roy. Okay. Roy says, hey, Bradley, what's going on? I have an existing client who offers me $50,000 a year for every city in which I can generate him leads for landscaping, tree service, electrician, roofing, and Christmas lights. Wow, that's a pretty damn good offer. We've been working together for almost 2 years, and he's a very good closer. He can bring money in as long as I send him leads. Now he wants to expand his business and is ready to move forward as long as the numbers make sense. I'm thinking 50,000 a year per city may sound like a good deal, but then he's looking to get leads from various trades, which may end up costing a lot to generate as well. That's true. So this profit margin may not be that much after all. Would you take up on this offer? Why or why not? And if not, how would you restructure the deal that makes sense for both sides? This is the biggest offer I've been presented yet, so I thought I'd get your opinion and advice on this. That way I can feel more confident about how I go about this. Thank you. That's a really good question. I would have to think through that one, Roy. I'm not going to be able to answer that here. However, I certainly think there's, at the top of my head, I would have to break it down and try to determine, okay, $50,000 per year per city. So let's just take one city as an example. What would that break down to on a monthly basis? And that would give me kind of a starting point as a budget. So, what is it? $4,200 a month or some shit like that is what it would be. Whatever it is, whatever it comes out to be, that would give me kind of like the starting point as to what, how much revenue can I generate from this engagement, right? And then what is it going to cost me in order to get results? And that there's a ton of variables there, right? Are you just doing straight up SEO? Or are you also buying paid traffic? Like, are you doing search ads or whatever to generate leads immediately? So there's a number of things that go into it, but I would probably just start with, okay, $50,000 per year. I would probably take an average city, not something that's uber competitive, but an average city for what he wants to target. And I don't know what that is, but I would, try to determine what that is, ask him, etc. And then I would go through and start with that. Okay, well, this is what essentially my maximum revenue per month is going to be for this location. What can I use? How can I distribute or how can I utilize that budget in order to get results and still allow for a margin? And then try to that's what I would do, is try to determine that first. And if you know your costs, like for example in SEO, I know what it costs me to have things built and developed, etc. So I can come up with the number of what it's going to cost in assets and like developing the assets to accomplish this. But the ongoing costs, like link building and things like that, that's a bit more vague, right? That's not quite as concrete or cut and dry, so to speak, right? So those are kind of variables that you're going to have some fudge factors built into those projections, if that makes sense. Because and again, but if you have a very specific set of services that you're targeting, over time you can determine what your costs are, because as you repeat it and you become more efficient and all that, you can dial those costs in, and it becomes much more predictable for subsequent locations that you enter, if that's clear. initially you're probably, again, guys, just to be clear, with an offer like that, I would, start with what I said, to figure out what my budget is on a monthly basis, and then figure out what the breakdown for my costs are and everything else. But I would also keep in mind that, up front, I may end up breaking even, or even in some cases, some of you might think I'm crazy about this, but in some cases I will actually lose money on a campaign initially, to produce results for a client, because I know that it's going to turn, well, I hope that it's going to turn into a longer term engagement that becomes very profitable. And there are some cases where I will do that, seriously, where I'll take money from a client for SEO, but I'll take that retainer money and put it into Google Ads, as well as some of my own money, just to generate some leads while I'm getting the SEOs. I know that's not a great business. That's not something that I recommend to do, but sometimes I'll take a little bit of a risk because I expect a bigger payoff down the road. I'm not saying that you do that. I'm just saying that that might be something that I would be willing to do. And it might be, you know what I'm saying? Like, initially you're going to spend more, but as you get better at developing assets and figuring out what works, maybe dialing in campaigns, ad campaigns, etc., the cost will come down, which means your margins increase, right? And that's the whole point. If you really dialed this in and had a good system that was duplicatable, then it's about scaling to the moon, right? And so that's something, again, it's an interesting offer. It's an interesting idea. You're right. That's a lot to be doing. I would probably try to focus in on something a little bit more specific to start with. But I certainly think it could be done. It's just a matter of kind of breaking down all the costs and making sure that you are at least at break-even point initially, with the hopes, and in my opinion, with the hopes that, down the road. And again, I'm not saying that you can't come out of the gate being profitable. I'm just saying, $4,200 a month to kind of optimize in a city for all of these services, that's not going to last long, right? You're going to burn through that budget fairly quickly, at least initially, in my opinion. But again, I'm not saying it can't be done, but it would take a lot more thought than just the short answer I gave you here. So interesting offer, but certainly break it down. Start with, like I said, on a monthly basis. That's typically how I do things. I try to plan things out on a monthly basis, not on an annual basis. Just makes it easier to manage, in my opinion. So interesting concept though. So follow-up question, or is that okay? Sorry to Bradley. Hey Bradley, to follow on my previous question on my existing client offering $50,000 per city per year to generate leads for him. Here is some more info. Oh Jesus, maybe I should have read that. To see the situation clear, the cities my client is looking to get into have a population of 260, 200K, 1.3 million, and 1 million respectively. Would this change how you approach the situation? Thank you so much. Yeah, absolutely it would. Because like the 260K and 200K, those are, 25, that's a quarter or even a fifth of the size of the other cities. So you $50,000 a year for those. Again, I'm not saying that you'd absolutely be profitable with that. You likely would be, but that same $50,000 to target a 1 million to 1.3 million city that's a big difference, right? It's a huge difference because the competition levels are significantly higher in the 1 to 1.3 million cities than it would be the 200 to 260K cities. That's why I was saying you have to kind of figure out what your like median is, or what is an average or typical city, if it can be done, and then base your costs around that, and then just recognize that there are going to be times where you have. So let's just use this as an example. Let's just say that the average city was 600K in population. Then you would know that, okay, well, if your average is that and you base your projections and your costs, et cetera, at that, then when you get these locations that are 1/3 the size of your average, now you can assume that you ought to be able to get somewhere near 3 times the margin, right? If it's 1/3 the size. Now it's not an exact science. It likely wouldn't be that, but you ought to have certainly a much higher margin than you would from the typical situation. But at the same time, on the other side of that spectrum is if it's twice as populated or as competitive as the typical location or typical city, then your margins are going to increase, or decrease drastically. So you have to take that into consideration. And perhaps you would have like a range. Anything between 200 to 500K is one value per year. Anything between 500K and $1 million is another value per year. or what I should say, sorry, 0 to 500K is one value per year, 500K to a million is another value per year, and 1.5 or something like that, which are big cities, as a different value. That might be something that I would work out. But again, start with a median. Like, what is the average? And develop your costs on that first, your projections on that first. And then you can always negotiate for terms for what I just described. And that might be one way to do it. I'm not saying that's the only way to do it. That's just one avenue to explore, is what I'm saying. Hopefully that's clear. Interesting questions, Roy. It's an interesting offer too. I hope you can work that out somehow. I'd certainly spend some time trying to figure out how to make that work, because it seems like an offer that could be very, very lucrative. But again, you're right to be wary and to ask these kind of questions up front, because I know those numbers seem big, but when you start to break things down, again, especially targeting a 1.3 million city, that's not a lot of money. That's really not, especially across multiple industries. Because I know, I swear to God, I know some of my link building clients, like in the personal injury space, for one client location in one city, they get, $8,000 a month in SEO retainer money, right? Think about that. That's $100,000 a year for one city, for one business, in one location, that they're paying. So you can imagine $50,000 per year per city for multiple industries, trying to generate leads from multiple services, tree services, landscaping, Christmas lights, etc. That's not a lot of money, $4,200 a month, especially in larger cities. So again, you got to kind of work that out. Pretty interesting though. He says, I currently have a VA who has been working on the content mirror process, who's done multiple of them over the last 5 months. I know you have previously expressed you pay your VAs on a per task basis, but I currently have this VA on a salary. It is currently taking them 10 hours plus to complete. Do you think this is well within range, or do you think they may be dragging the chain, so to speak? Oh, okay, I know what you mean. It shouldn't take 10 hours to do one content mirroring structure. It shouldn't take 10 hours. I did it on Twitch at the beginning of this year. I think it might have been in February. I haven't done any Twitch things since I moved out of my residence, guys, but I hope to start that again next year. When we start the DHA program, I'll be doing that as like office hours stuff for support. But anyway, I did it on Twitch live, and my Twitch sessions were only an hour and a half, usually from 6:30 to 8 a.m. And I did it in 2 days. Right. So, I'm pretty sure I did it in 2, maybe 3, but that was either 3 or 4.5 hours. Seriously. And I did it live because I mentioned to the members that were, the few crazy bastards that would show up every day to Twitch. I asked them, I took a little poll and just said, hey guys, I've got the content mirroring method that's recently been updated. And there was a project that I wanted to apply it to. And I said, should I just send this to my VA, or should I use this as an example to teach you, to demonstrate it and just go through the process? And everybody voted that I just do it so that they could see it done. And so I did it. And I think, like I said, it took me 2, maybe 3 days to do the whole content mirroring structure. And that was, of course it was me, but I don't do them all the time. I rarely do them at all, because once I learn how to do something like that and I develop the SOP, I don't fucking do it anymore, or very rarely, because I have other people do it. Right. And that's the whole point. So even if it takes 6 hours, that's better than 10. So I don't know. Hey, easy thing to do, Heath, is put them on a time tracker. Right. And have it record, take snapshots, times. What is it called? Time snaps is another one of them. There's a bunch of them. Just pick a time tracker and have them record them doing the process so that you can see what they're doing. That's why I don't pay people by the hour, by the way, guys, because there's no incentive to be efficient. There is zero. In fact, isn't there incentive to be inefficient when you're paid by the hour? Yes, that's a yes. So that's why I don't pay by the hour. I've got 2 hourly VAs. That's it, out of 28 employees. And the rest of them are paid on a per task basis. Why? Because it gives them incentive to become more efficient. The more productive they are, the more money they make. What more incentive do you need? So, Heath, I have pricing schedules for how I pay my VAs, including for content mirroring, and that's a per post basis. So if you total up all of the components within there, then you multiply that by whatever the multiplier is that you are willing to pay, and that's your price per content mirror. And in my opinion, that's much better, because I don't care if it takes them 30 hours to complete at that point. The point is they're getting paid a set amount to have it complete. But those that are smart, those that are hungry, those that want to earn more revenue will become incredibly efficient if they know that as soon as I get this done, I can work on another, right? So again, guys, I can't stress enough. If you want better employees that are way more productive, pay them on a per task basis, pay them on a performance basis, not on an hourly basis. Anyway, hopefully that's clear. I think 10 hours is too much is what I'm saying. I know for sure it didn't take me that long. And I very rarely do them myself. All right, shut up, Google. All right, here is a novel of a question from Roy as well. So let me try to, I spoke with a mastermind member earlier today that said he posted a question for Hump Day Hangouts, and I don't even see it. Maybe he was thinking of the mastermind question form. Yeah, because I don't see it here. So Greg, if you're on, we had our mastermind onboarding call today, and you said you posted a question here. I don't see your name. So I'm assuming you actually posted the question for the mastermind webinar, which is probably more appropriate as a mastermind member anyway. In which case your question will be answered on the next mastermind webinar, just to be clear. All right, so let's finish this last question from Roy, and then we'll get into comments for a few minutes. All right, Google, shut up. Tired of that stupid pop-up. All right. Hey, Bradley, to follow up again on my question regarding my client offering $50K a year per city, since two of the cities he'd like to get into have a population of 260 and 200K, while the other two cities have a population of 1.3 and 1 million. I wonder if 50K would make sense, because I presume it'd be much harder to rank GBP listings and generate leads in the cities with over 1 million. Exactly. Yeah. And I think I already answered that. In this case, would you say you'd still try to create listings and rank them in the big cities, but maybe charge higher? Or would you say you'd rather turn down setting up listings in big cities? And if you were to create and rank GBP listings in big cities, do you think it's a good idea to set up multiple listings to target smaller areas in the big city rather than to set up listings and try to rank it across the big city? Yes. So to answer your question there, yes, absolutely. In large cities, because guys, the way that if you're talking about Google business assets get like the coverage, the maps coverage area, the proximity, the area in which the map will get coverage in search, it becomes narrower with the more densely populated areas, right? The more densely populated the area, the narrower the coverage is. And that is because of two reasons. Number one, it's more densely populated, so therefore it's by nature, it's likely more competitive. There's more competing companies offering the same products and services. And the way that Google works now is Google tries to, it's hyperlocal. Google's gone hyperlocal. Google wants to, if it knows that the search query has local intent, whether it's explicit or implied local intent, if Google it thinks that the search query has local intent, it is going to return hyper-localized results. And therefore, if it's a densely populated area, it's likely that there are multiple more competing companies that provide products, those products and services that the searcher is looking for. And Google is going to want to return results that are in close, so maps results or Google business profiles that are in close proximity to the searcher from the point where they are searching. Hopefully that's clear. So in large cities, it makes sense to have multiple GBPs, you know, throughout the boroughs or districts or whatever quadrants. You could even split a city up into quadrants, right? And you have one in the north, south, east, and west, so to speak. That's a way to do it. But, you know, I don't know if you might have an in somehow of getting GBPs. That's very difficult to do. So if you're talking about organic assets, then it doesn't, in my opinion, you can go with just one kind of asset or a series of assets, because you're not talking about Google Maps rankings. Organic is a whole different animal, right? Maps rankings is one thing. Proximity is a huge factor, but organic is not the case. So it really depends on what you're trying to do. As far as, you know, if it's a big city, yes, I recommend if you're talking about Google business profiles, you have multiple profiles, split them out. Like I said, do quadrants or whatever. And that's a good way to do it. And that's how I recommend it. Because again, that's the other thing, guys. It's funny because I have a link building client. One of my best link building clients actually earlier sent me a request yesterday about expanding his search grid, local, because we provide bright local reports for my link building clients. We do organic rank tracking, local search grid tracking, and citation tracking. And our reports, our local search grid reports, our kind of normal settings are half-mile spacing, a 15 by 15 grid with half-mile spacing for most Google business profiles. In very densely populated areas like New York City, Philadelphia, Miami, etc., we oftentimes will reduce the spacing between nodes in the search grid report to 0.1 miles. Why? Because of what I just mentioned. Again, especially for storefront businesses, for service area businesses, we typically leave it at 0.5 mile radius or spacing between nodes. But because, but my client asked me about having his local search grid, which was a 15 by 15 grid at 0.5 mile spacing. It was for one of his clients. He sent me a support ticket asking if we could increase the maps, the maps area, so the spacing between nodes, to cover, like, I think he said like a 30 or 40 mile radius. And I said, well, that's ridiculous. And I sent him a video and I was like, we can do that, but I don't know why you'd want to. That's not how local Google Maps works. Like Google Business Profiles, if we do that, you're only going to see one speck of green in the very center, and that's it. The rest is going to be a sea of red. Why would we do that? And he said, well, because my client wants to, covers a large service area, blah, blah, blah. And I said, yeah, I understand that, but you can track that stuff in organic, but not in maps. It's just going to make the search grid reports look like you're not ranking at all, when indeed they could be crushing it in their local area. And so I said to him, look, if you want me to, I'll demonstrate this for you. Tell me which location it is, because he's got multiple locations with me. And I said, and I'll do it. And so he sent it back to me or sent me the name of the location. And I went in and again, the report setting was a 15 by 15 grid with half mile spacing. So then I redid it at 1 mile spacing. And then I redid it again today. I did this twice today to 2 mile spacing. And it's really interesting, but the low competition keywords that didn't have, that has very, very little competition. And I even went in because I recorded a video to demonstrate, to explain to him what I was seeing. And I took the same set of keywords that were in the local search grid report and went to the Google Google Ads keyword planner. And I plugged those in there to show the search volume. And I set the geographic area to what they call the Nielsen DMA region. So, and this was in the Washington, D.C. area. So it's the Washington Nielsen, whatever they call that, Nielsen area. It's a big region. So essentially it's Southern Maryland, DC, and Virginia. Anyway, long story short, I just set the geographic area to that. And it showed that the top level keyword had 880 searches per month on average for that region. But the keywords that were much lower competition had like 70 or 60 or 70 searches per month. So there was a magnitude of 10 difference, right, between the top, the competitive keywords, the ones that generate the most leads, and the non-competitive keywords. There was a huge difference in search volume. And I could clearly demonstrate that, which I did, and I recorded a video to show it to him. And I clearly demonstrated that in the video where I was showing the mapped grids, because there was I believe there was maybe 11 keywords. Or maybe it was 7. Sorry, there were 7 keywords that we were tracking in the local search grid report. And I showed him. I was like, look, this keyword, the competitive keyword, as we expand the map area, it shows the rankings are tanking, and that is because it's showing an average of the nodes, like where it is ranking across all those points on the map. So 15 by 15 is 225 points. So the average was going down considerably as we expanded the area for the competitive keywords. But what I thought was really interesting was the non-competitive keywords that only had 70, that also don't get much search volume. He was ranking, even when I spread it to 2 mile radius, which is a 450 square mile area, a 15 by 15 grid with 2 mile spacing between nodes is 450 square miles. That's freaking huge. That's 15 miles in any direction from the center point. If you think about that, that's huge. That's a huge area. And yet he was still ranking straight up greens across that whole area because it's not competitive. So why did I say all of that? Because very specifically, it goes to show you that competitive terms, the more competitive it is, the less coverage area you're going to get. The less competitive it is, the more coverage area you're going to get. So all of that comes back to, once again, if I was going to be targeting with this type of an arrangement, I would want to go after these types of cities, the 200 and 260, the 200 to 500K type cities, not the million plus. If I'm going to go after the million plus, first of all, I'd want a bigger budget, or I'd want multiple locations. But again, that's going to require a bigger budget. And honestly, it's going to take you a hell of a lot longer to get traction in those longer areas. So I prefer to do less work and start generating revenue than do more work before I start generating revenue. So I would go after the smaller cities first. I would absolutely target the larger cities, but I would require more budget, etc. But anyway, all I'm trying to say, guys, is it's really interesting. But if you do some tests like what I just talked about, you'll see that's. But who want the long tail keywords that have very little search volume? They're still valuable, so it does make sense to optimize for those and to get that huge map area coverage, which I thought was incredibly interesting, because even those lower search volume keywords, I would have thought there would have been more competitors trying to rank for that, and apparently they're not, and he's crushing it for most of his keywords. And I mean, by the way, he's crushing it for the top level keyword too. It's just a much smaller area that the GBP is ranking for that. So anyway, that's why I'm saying, guys, like the more competitive it is, it makes sense. If there's more competing companies providing products and services in that local area, then Google's going to want to return results of businesses that are in close proximity to the searcher. So it's going to be a smaller area for that. But if there's not a lot of competitors, then you can get much larger coverage area. So anyway, like I said, I would target the smaller areas. That's what I'm teaching, by the way, at the DHA program, is really about identifying those areas that have little competition and building organic assets so that you can rank very quickly. Yes, they're not going to generate a lot of leads, but that's okay. You can use those assets that you rank in the low competition areas as conversation starters to prove to the business owners in your chosen industry and the locations where you have assets ranked. You can use those to show that you know how to get results and start conversations. And then you can rent them those assets or sell them those on a pay-per-lead basis, the leads that are generated from those assets, or give them away and say, look, we'll throw in the leads generated from these assets if you sign up for an SEO plan for your brand, if that makes sense. You could just use those organic assets that you rank in low competition areas as a value add-on, so to speak, if they sign up for SEO services for their brand. So there's just a number of things that I'm teaching in the DHA program about using organic assets and identifying low competition areas to sell SEO services to local clients, right? And that's kind of a hybrid of what you're talking about here. So hence the name Directory Hybrid Agency. Anyway. Okay. Or would you say I'm better off just running Google Ads to generate leads in the big cities? Yeah, I mean, that's always an option too. But what I found is it's hard to, selling leads, it's hard to make leads profitable with Google Ads. At least I found it difficult. If you're running Google Ads for a client, it's a little bit different, but I found it difficult to monetize leads generated from just Google Ads unless I'm selling a lead multiple times, which is an option. So anyway, hopefully that's clear. All right, guys, I've got a couple minutes left. If there's any comments worth talking about, we'll bring them up. Am I by myself today?
Nah, checking it out, seeing if don't think so. Let's see. I think we're good.
Yeah, I'm scrolling through it. Jim says, has anyone had a chance to take Jesper Nisman's new schema writer tool for a test drive? No, but I signed up for it. I signed up for it I think it was on Monday, but I haven't even had a chance to look at it yet. But I like Jesper, so I signed up. James says 5 hours is more likely, but if it is their first, I'd see the timing on the second. So James is saying for the content mirroring build out. Yeah, James has been building those, I'm sure. Yeah, 5 hours. That seems right, James. Absolutely. I think you're spot on there, man. Like I said, I think when I did it on Twitch, it was either 2 or 3 days that I did it in an hour and a half session. So even if it was 3, that's 4.5 hours. So yeah, that makes sense. That's what I said. Even if it was 6, that sounds more normal. So 5-6 hours, I think you're right on. I think you're spot on. So here, Cecilia says next year for Twitch. Well, Cecilia, I still don't have a permanent residence, although when I pick up my RV on Saturday, it should have Starlink installed. If they're done with it by then, they should be. So hopefully I have the bandwidth where I might be able to start that sooner. David says, I've learned the content mirroring method I learned the content mirroring method and it's a working process. I've shown proof of its merits myself. David, if you got Flowster, I'll just shoot you ping me in Facebook like you normally do. I'll shoot you the Flowster template for the content mirroring method. I know you're not in the mastermind, but David gets special privileges because he's been an avid follower of Twitch and everything else. Just shoot me a message, man. I'll shoot you the Flowster template. Greg says, cool beans. Greg, so you are here, man. I'm sorry. I think you confused the forms. But yeah, if you got a question that you want answered sooner than next week, Greg, because that's when the next mastermind webinar is, just post it in the community and I'll answer it in there. Okay. And then James says population is only one factor. Competition and niche play a huge factor as whether 50K will lead to massive work and big profits. Yeah, you're absolutely right, James. That's what I was saying. It's not just the population. It's also the keyword, the service, etc. So James is 100% correct. Appreciate you guys. See everybody tomorrow. We have the Build with Bradley group tomorrow. Yeah, so the discussion group. So hopefully you'll see some of you guys there. Thanks, everyone.